Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2. Testing.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, council members, residents, and staff of the town that is growing beautifully, Miami Lakes. The ever-elusive hope. We need it, yet we cannot find it. When we most need it, it seems to evade us. Have we ever thought that maybe we're looking for it in all the wrong places? Hope is at the center of our soul. We cannot find it within someone else's soul. We cannot find it within material things. It is at the very core of our being. Thank you, Mr.
Hopefully the guy's not speaking right now.
Welcome to the council meeting for October 11th. We're going to get started with our presentations. This time we're going to ask the members of our Veterans Committee who are here to please come up and join us, as well as the representatives of Headquarter Toyota. Every year, the Veterans Committee puts together a December charity run, and this year we are happy to announce that Headquarter Toyota has become the sponsor member again. I think this is second or third year in a row. So we're very, very appreciative of everything you guys do for the town. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Judy Farkas.
Thank you very much. It was a really great thing to get exposed to this committee and to this town back in 2018 with Naib and a few other great people that aren't here today. So I thank you for thanking me, but to me it's turned into way more than just sponsoring an event. I've learned to know this community and feel like it's my home, even though it isn't, but it is. So thank you for that.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Clerk. We're going to call the meeting to order. Please call the roll.
Good evening. Councilmember Diegues,
Here.
Councilmember Collazo,
Present.
Councilmember Ruano,
Present.
Councilmember Fernandez is absent. He will be joining us via Zoom. Councilmember Alvarez is not here, but he will be here shortly. Vice Mayor Rodriguez
Present.
and Mayor Sid he will be joining us shortly as well. We have quorum, Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Please rise for the prayer led by Christian Cardenas from Boy Scouts of America, Troop 584.
Hello. If it is your custom, please pray with me. Remove all headwear, please. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you. Please remain standing for the presentation of colors by Boy Scouts of America, Troop 584.
Color guard, attention. Color guard, forward march. Color guard, halt. Color guard, present the colors. May you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Color guard, post the colors. Color guard, forward march.
Thank you, Troop 584. You may be seated. Okay, moving on to the Better You Minute, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, council members, residents, and staff of the town that is growing beautifully, Miami Lakes. The ever-elusive hope. We need it, yet we cannot find it. When we most need it, it seems to evade us. Have we ever thought that maybe we're looking for it in all the wrong places? Hope is at the center of our soul. We cannot find it within someone else's soul. We cannot find it within material things. It is at the very core of our being. We must realize, when we try to find it, that we cannot find that which we have never lost. We can, however, share our hope. Show it to others and help them find it within themselves. Helping others find hope can be one of the most gratifying things we do. It is also the kindest we could do. So let's help others find hope.
Thank you. Council, moving on to the order of business, deferrals, additions, deletions. Do we have any motions?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, I want to pull from consent item 10D.
10D. 10D
10D.
is pulled from consent.
And Madam Clerk, I missed the roll call, but I am present.
Yes, welcome, Mayor. Thank you.
Council, any other motions on the order of
And
business?
just to clarify,
Yes, ma'am.
10D as in David.
D is in
Correct,
David.
Mayor?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion
Second.
and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, moving on. Public comments. Madam Clerk.
Good evening. Public comments will be heard at the beginning of this meeting, and 3 minutes will be afforded to speakers. All comments and questions from this attending public shall be directed to the mayor, or the vice mayor in this case, in a courteous tone. And to ensure the orderly conduct and efficiency of the meeting, public comments shall be limited to 3 minutes. Good evening. Please just approach the podium, state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, council members, Mr.
evening.
Gastesi, Mr. Peterman, and staff. Bonnie Cintrone, 14770 Lewis Road. The scourge of misinformation or the neglectful omission of the whole truth seems to have come to our town thanks to those trying to get their dreams for the Optimus Park to fruition. We are hearing all kinds of propaganda regarding our health and the future of our children. The rhetoric we hear would have us believe that those who are opposed to the $19.5 million bond are wanting to deprive our children and residents of their opportunity to have good health. That's absurd. The Optimus Club has been conducting excellent sports programs at the facility since its inception. The people, including several on the council who are pushing this project, have avoided revealing the negative impact such a high-priced bond would have on our residents. Not only will the property owner's taxes increase, but the rents will no doubt also be higher as the landlords pass their increased tax burden on to the tenants. Perhaps many residents are unaware that only about 30% of the property of the park actually belongs to our town. Up until now, our agreement with the Miami-Dade County School Board has allowed us fairly unrestricted use of the facility as long as our town assumed the responsibility of maintaining it, which we have done beautifully at quite an expense. But now, if the bond is approved and the proposed upgrading is done, the wording of that agreement with the school board has been changed or would be changed, and anyone who reads it can plainly see that our town population would never have even close to exclusive use, nor would we have a priority for using the facility. It would be foolish for anyone to think it was somehow beneficial to this town to take on such an expense for so little in return. By the way, those who claim that property values would increase were we to have a state-of-the-art sports complex here may have overlooked the fact that people who are looking for a good community in which to raise their children look at the quality of the schools, not what athletic fields are available. Property values in this town are already very inflated, and young couples find it hard to afford to even buy here now. As values increase, so do our property taxes. So that's not a very good selling point for supporting the bond, in my opinion. And this is not a matter of some of us just saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Most of us would agree that minor improvements might be beneficial, but the large-scale project being proposed is out of the question. Our town is already very relevant. It's already keeping up with the times without taking on such an unnecessary expense. A concession stand, for example, does not promote good health for anyone, and it hurts the local businesses which used to be patronized after the sports events there. Also, some of the fields, the baseball fields on the new plan, actually face towards 67th Avenue, so the balls would be a hazard to any passing traffic or pedestrians. The whole idea is ridiculous.
Thank you, Bonnie. Next.
Martha Mendez, 7,000 Glen Eagle Drive. So there's 4 of you today. No, that doesn't count. In order to get quorum, you have to have 4 council members present, because it happened before. And the meeting was delayed an hour until 4 council members showed up. So it's time for this council to set the rules. You could participate in Zoom during COVID, and a lot of people speak through Zoom, but they're not required to be here. The council has to be here. You only meet once a month. It's time to get rid of the participating and voting through Zoom. You have to be here, because to me, the resident sitting here, this is a lack of respect from 3 council members who cannot make it once a month to listen to the people. So it's time for you to address what an absence is. If you're not here for roll call, it shouldn't count as assisting. And if you come in late, you're not here. And that should be in a resolution, and you should discuss it for everybody to hear. Thank you.
Thank you, Mita. Anyone else wishing to speak in public comments? Name and address for the record.
Good evening, Mayor, who's on Zoom, Vice Mayor, council members. My name is Diane Jimenez. I'm a student at Goldman, 1400 Northwest, 89th Avenue. So basically, I hold various leadership roles at my school. Before anything, I would like to make a quote by the infamous Dr. Seuss. A person small, no matter how small. So I just want to bring up, for example, the Public Safety Committee has a police rep, which he's actually here over there, has a fire rep. Why not a student rep? So I have shared my views with a couple of the council members up here, for example, Ms. Ruano, Mr. Collazo. And I think that, for example, this town holds various events for the youth from ages, you could say, for kids in elementary, kids in middle school, all the way to high school. So I think that it's very important, not just at any level of, for example, school government. I think that kids on a daily basis wish to be part of their local government, their district-based government. So every day we see that there's more openings for students to join and participate in the civical aspect of our community. So I think that as a student, that the view of not just a student, but a youth type of view to how our community is ran is very important. So, and I believe as well that the Public Safety Committee is very essential to how our town is ran. So I believe that by allowing a student rep, not just on the Public Safety Committee, I'm not just pushing for that. I think that the more students, the more opinions that we receive by any type of means is important to the progress of this community. So I believe that by allowing a student rep, you would not just do the town a favor and give students of Miami Lakes a voice, but you'd be doing the youth a favor. So I want to thank you, and I want to thank the mayor, who sadly is not here, but I wish for you guys to do this through some type of resolution. Whatever you guys can do. My point on speaking here today in a public comment is because I believe that usually kids are diminished and kids are not looked at and called kids and not smart, intelligent students who go to school and study on a daily basis. So I think that it's very important for all of us to not look down on students, but look up to them as the future, because that's the reality of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in public comments? Please come on up.
Claudia Luces, 8220 Menteith Terrace. For the record, back in the day when there were an extra $3 million, I spoke in public comments and supported $1 million to be allocated towards each one of our parks, including the Optimist. So let's talk about the Optimus Park bond. This issue is so important that our town paid the ballot question consultant $24,900 to review the ballot language to increase the chances of passing this bond. Despite the council initially having voted on ballot language to include the $19.5 million price tag at the beginning of the question, the following month, a motion was introduced to alter the ballot language to have the price tag at the end, as this would increase the chances of the voter voting in favor of this item. As stated by the ballot language consultant, most voters will more than likely not finish reading the questions and will more than likely vote in favor of this item. So now let's talk some facts. Fact, tax number 1. We pay school board taxes that help school boards operate and maintain school property, as well as district operations. Fact, tax number 2. We Miami Lakers alone pay for the maintenance of the park. Last year's cost alone was $700,000. Fact, tax number 3. We Miami Lakers pay for equipment used by the Optimus Club for its programs. Fact, tax number 4. We Miami Lakers have to pay a fee to the pay-for-play vendors that operate programs at this park. Use of the fields or airnasium will be limited to when these programs are not using these amenities. Fact, tax number 5. If this bond passes, we Miami Lakers will be saddled with this debt for 30 years. Fact, there has been conversations addressing the need for police officer or officers to manage traffic around the park. Where the funding of these officers would come from? Give you one guess, Miami Lakers. Fact, less than 50% of the kids that play at the park are from Miami Lakes. But only Miami Lakers will bear the brunt of paying for the redevelopment and the maintenance of this park. Fact, January 6, 2022, sunshine meeting between Mayor Sid and Vice Mayor Rodriguez. 2022 initiatives are discussed, including the possible renaming of the park. Tell me again how this is about the kids.
And next, anyone else who wishes to speak in public comments?
Good afternoon, Vice Mayor, council members. First and foremost, I want to say thank you for everything you do, because I know there is commitment there. And I want to say that we all have the best intentions of heart, right, of what we think. I have to believe that we're all acting with the best interest at heart for our community. But perhaps there's a disconnect between what council feels community needs and what the residents feel we need. And we're going to know in November who's connected to the residents and who's not. So I would love to be on that side, but I can't because I have a lot of other commitments that don't give me the freedom to be able to sit there next to you. Otherwise, I'd be honored to do that. And I understand Councilman Alvarez stating his increased absenceism is because he just has too much on his plate. But I'm here to set the record straight. When I'm part of the pact that is trying to provide information to voters, when I was asked to join that pact, one of the conditions I offered was that I would stick to the facts, that I will not bring anything to anyone if it was not supported or factual. I don't believe on emotions. I think emotions muddy the waters, and I believe in facts. And I have tried to act responsibly in all the articles that we have published. We have gone out and looked at different angles, different ways to justify or to think, how could that be done better? How is it valid, right? You asked me what's reasonable improvements? I didn't answer to you right away. I sat there, Vice Mayor, and I said, let me do some research. I want to answer you educated. And I pulled, I think it was six different budgets and programs at different times. That being said, I have been challenged publicly by some of the council members, including the mayor, Manny Sid, on what the term of this joint use agreement is. I have been accused of muddying the waters. We have town attorney present, and I'd like for him to weigh in as to the term of the JUA, and I'm going to read it out loud for the record. The term of the agreement, commencement on November 12, 2002, commencement date, and shall end 480 months from the effective date of the Second Amendment as herein defined, but in no event later than March 31, 2062, unless extended or terminated sooner as provided for this agreement. So the term, as it stands now, expires on 2062. 480 months is 40 years. We do have two options to renew that will require.
Council, I'll make a motion to extend for 1 additional minute.
I'll second.
All those in
Thank you.
favor?
Aye.
Aye. Go ahead.
To extend for 2 separate periods of 10 years each that will require a legal document and approval by Miami-Dade County Public Schools. I just want to clear my record because I hate for somebody to say, as diligent that I've been trying to be and responsible as I've been trying to be, to not put emotions and just produce facts. At the end of the day, I think the best voter is a better informed voter on all matters. And I've been trying to give all matters the benefit of the doubt. I've looked at every angle and put it out there. And every post that I put out there says, each family has to make the decision that best fits them. And we're going to go to vote. So thank you. And I just wanted to go on record to clarify that. And perhaps the town attorney can make the comments on the terms.
Thank you, Susana. Anyone else wishing to speak in public comments? Public comments? Just coming up. Name and address for the record.
Angelo Garcia, 16441 Northwest 77th Place. I've been walking and talking to numerous residents, and some of them have been asking me if I know anything of where is the money that the marquee that's on the corner of 67th Avenue next to the church, where is that money going to? Nobody seems to know where that money is. I've requested a public record request 3 times this week. I'd like to ask the manager if he knows where that money is. After doing a little bit of study with the gentleman that does a little bit of, he knows a little bit about advertisement. He says that we need to get the size of that marquee, and he'll be able to give me a better idea of how much money that marquee should generate. I know that the players that are there are pretty heavy. We have, I'm not going to name them all because I'd be here for a while, but we have Headquarters, Toyota, City Furniture, and on and on and on. So with people like that on that marquee, you should be generating a lot of money on a monthly basis. When I say a lot, I'll have a better idea once I do my full study of my analysis. Can somebody tell me where that money is going to? I'll give you a good one when I get through with my investigation. Can somebody tell me where the money's going? Nobody knows? I mean, somebody told me it's going to the Optimus Park, it's going to the Optimus Club, it's going to pay this, it's going to pay that. It should be going to do its repairs, to do its due diligence. So can somebody look into that? And because I need to turn that to some of the concerned residents that would like to know where those funds are going. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. Anyone else? Public comments? Just come on up. Madam Clerk, do you have anyone online for public comments?
I see some participants. Good evening. If you're at home participating via Zoom, you want to speak in public comments, just unmute yourself. Welcome. State your name and address for the record. Vice Mayor, I don't see anyone else for public comments.
Public comments are closed. Okay, moving on. We have appointments. We have 3 appointments. We have Jennifer Cotto being appointed to the Mental Health Task Force by Councilmember Fernandez. Carla Acosta to the Cultural Affairs Committee by Councilwoman Ruano. Edward Baez to the Veterans Committee by Councilmember Josh Dieguez. Do you have a motion?
I'll move the appointments.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of appointments?
Aye.
Aye. Are any of these, Jennifer, Carla, Edward, are any of you here today? No. Thank you if you're watching. Thank you for your time. Yes, Councilman.
Before we move on, and it's not germane, it's germane to this topic, but the young man that came up and spoke in public comments, he did approach me at the last meeting regarding membership to one of the committees. He is a minor. I know that's been discussed. Can minors participate in the committees, and what would we need to do to allow a minor to participate in a committee if it's not up through resolution?
I think he can participate on committees that don't vote money.
Yeah. He can be a non-voting member on the committee. He can be advisory. He can participate. He just, if the topic comes with regards to budgets or funds, he should not vote. He should recuse himself.
Yeah, he's a minor, so he's legally incapacitated to vote for money.
So nothing would preclude us from having him participating in a meeting. He just wouldn't be able to vote on the budgets.
That's correct.
I think it would be similar to what we do for youth activities, right?
Right.
Yeah, and I think recently all of you voted to make an amendment to the Education Advisory Board to allow youth member, which I believe is Maritza Costa.
Correct.
So it would be something similar to that.
Right. I just don't remember off the top of my head. I don't remember off the top of my head if all the other committees have rules that they can only be adults. I just don't remember.
Yeah, all the other ones are adults. The exception you recently made was for the Education Advisory Board to allow for a youth representative, which is Maritza Costa.
And we can look into it.
Was it through resolution?
It was via resolution, yes.
Okay. I think several of us might file a new business item next month
Right.
to allow the gentleman to participate. So I just wanted to make
That's
sure
fine.
that we have the discussion.
I don't have a problem with that. We'll look at the rules. I mean, the rules may allow it. I just, off the top of my head, I don't know. We can revisit this later tonight if you prefer.
Okay. Committee reports. Madam Clerk, I believe we don't have any committee reports this evening, right?
No committee reports.
Okay, moving on to item 9, special presentations. Mr. Manager.
Yes, our first special presentation is for Chief Ray Jadala. Chief Jadala was appointed as the new fire chief for Miami-Dade County in August of this year by Miami-Dade County Mayor Daniela Levine Cava. Chief Jadala started in the fire service in 1996 with Palm Beach County, then transitioned over to Miami-Dade County in the year 2000. He's attained a Master's of Public Administration and a Bachelor's in Fire Science and Emergency Medical Services. If you recognize him, he was the face of the Miami-Dade County operations for the Surfside building collapse. He was the incident commander for that operation after the initial phase, and he continued. He was the interface with the families and provided multiple updates throughout the entire event. So Chief Jadala is here. He was recently appointed. I had the pleasure of meeting him just about a month or two ago here at Station 64, and I thought it'd be valuable for him to meet you all in person.
Well, thank you, Mr. Manager. Really appreciate the warm welcome. Good evening to Mr. Mayor. I know he's online, Vice Mayor, to the members of this great council, and I know that our appointed leaders. And I know that Major Ruiz was just here, and to all the residents of Miami Lakes. I'm not here to really speak about myself. I think Mr. Manager did a very good job of just announcing what I've been able to do up until now. But I just want to say hello. I want to introduce some of my members here. To my far left is the Deputy Fire Marshal, Alina Iglesias. To my left also is my Chief of Staff, Erica Benitez. And I know that he just separated from fire because we created our own department now, is the Office of Emergency Management, Pete Gomez. So I'm here to talk about your fire department, our fire department, in regards to Miami-Dade Fire Rescue. And we are now at 71 firehouses, 2,800 strong. These are 159 operational units that are at your disposal in the event, God forbid, but in the event that there's a need, we're there for you. We continue to grow. We have a growth problem in regards to, out west, down south, And then, of course, in the northeast sector of Miami-Dade County, we continue to grow vertically. In regards to the town of Miami Lakes, we have 2 stations that are that are assigned to the town limits, Station 64 and Station 1. Just last year, they ran just under 3,500 calls combined. They have an average of 7-minute response time. Just last month in regards to 2022, they ran 283 calls. Most of the calls are typically medical calls, as you've seen historically. 80% of all calls are usually medical calls, and everything else revolves around fires, car accidents, elevator emergencies, etc. There's a variety of little things here and there. But it's not just about the 2 stations, again, that are in the town limits. In addition to the, again, 71 firehouses, but within 4 square miles of the town, we have a total of 8 fire stations that respond, day in and day out. With a typical structure fire that occurs at Miami Lakes, it's not just 1 or 2 fire trucks that have to respond. We do follow NFPA, guidelines, and typically we get 4 to 6 trucks. And as an incident escalates, we may have to, reciprocate the 4 to 6 trucks, and the numbers continue. But at the same time, when all those units are out, we call backfill. We send resources, because this is typically what fire services do across the United States. We make sure that certain pockets are not depleted. So in the event the next emergency comes, we do have services. So I just want to thank, this great council. I want to thank all the residents of the town for allowing us to be, your fire department. And at this time, I just open up the floor if there's any questions for me.
Thank you, Chief. Council, any questions? Councilwoman?
No questions. Just wanted to thank you and your brothers and sisters for your service. We truly appreciate it.
Thank you very much. I truly appreciate it. So,
thanks again.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Manager.
Mr. Manager?
Yeah, the second special presentation, Chief Jadala took my thunder a little bit there, but I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Pete Gomez. He's the director of the Miami-Dade County Office of Emergency Management. He was appointed to this position in June of this year. He spent many years, and different than my relationship with Chief Jadala, which is only a month or 2 old, I've known Pete for many years, 35 plus years. Pete worked with me at the City of Miami Fire Rescue Department. He worked there for 35 years or so. Prior to that stint, he actually also spent 2 years as a City of Hialeah police officer. He finally saw the light, transitioned over from police, from police to fire rescue, and he's attained a master's degree in emergency management and a bachelor's in fire science. Pete is a Hialeah boy. He was raised nearby, so he's one of us. So, Pete Gomez.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Vice Mayor. Thank you for having me, Eddie. What Eddie didn't mention is we go back even further than that. When he used to cheat in basketball at Southeast Park, Coach used to put me in to get in a fight with them just to get him kicked out of the game because I was terrible and he was like a stud player. But we go way back. Thank you very much for having me here. Yeah, I'm a Hialeah boy. I grew up in Babcock Park in Hialeah. Spent all my time growing up there and doing all the mischievous things that Hialeah kids do. I've had a pretty good career. I started off as a police officer, BLE 87, the original BLEs, in 1983. And unfortunately, I had an accident in Hialeah where I got shot in the face. Like Eddie said, I smelled the coffee and I got out and I became a firefighter in 1985. And I was fortunate enough to do a lot of really cool things in the fire department. I was a hazardous materials technician. I joined the Urban Search and Rescue Team, which is one of the 28 national urban search and rescue teams. And I was fortunate enough to go on a lot of deployments, the World Trade Center, Hurricane Katrina, Hurricane Charlie, you name it, all those, Andrew. So I've had a lot of experience here. I've had the fortune lately to work with my good friend back there, Chief Ray Jadala, who's really been supportive in my role as the emergency manager for the city. 3 days after I got hired, I'm sorry, in the county, 3 days after I got hired, we had the rain event. from us, we are ready. We are your emergency management agency. Like all the other agencies that we serve, we're going to do the best to provide whatever service you need. And the manager has my cell phone number. I got no problem giving it out. You want to call me, tell me what a good job I'm doing or what a terrible job I'm doing, I'll take it. It doesn't matter to me. So I'm here for you. If you got any questions, fire away.
Thank you, Mr. Gomez. Hopefully the manager never has to call you, but we appreciate you being on call.
Thank you for your service.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Mr. Manager?
Yeah, our third and final special presentation, as we've historically always done, is when we bring on new staff members to our staff. I like to bring them before you so you put a name with a face, or the face to the name. Miss Olivia Schock has been employed by us just over 2 to 3 weeks or so. Yes. Olivia has a bachelor's degree that she attained in December of 21, so she's recent college graduate. Yes. It was in community and environmental planning. She is taking over the position, a revamped position as transportation coordinator. She's going to be working under the auspices or under the tutelage and mentoring of Susana Alonso. So she's going to be handling a lot of the day-to-day transportation issues and then come along little by little, and Susana is going to help coach and mentor and guide her in her development as a transportation manager. So she comes from the University of New Hampshire. Yes. So the warm weather is a big change for her. And so far, I think her reception here has been very warm. Our staff's been, she's taken on to the culture that we seem to have here, and she's done a great job so far. So this is Olivia Schock.
Yes. Hello, nice to meet you guys.
Welcome, Olivia.
Thank you so much.
Well,
You're in good hands with Susana.
Yes, I am.
excellent.
Olivia, there's a university here called Florida International University that has...
When you start your graduate work, right?
Okay, moving on to consent calendar. We had an item pulled from consent. That's item 10D that was pulled by the mayor. Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I just wanted to pull this item to vote no, to record my vote as a no vote. I think I have, I know I have some real concerns in regards to the stormwater bond and some of these projects moving forward without outfalls, which is something I can't support. I mean, one of the greater concerns that I have is that these projects are getting built, they're providing temporary relief, and as the water table rises or changes, the additional square footage that we added to these French drains without the outfalls, it'll put us right back to where we're at today in terms of capacity. So yeah, I'll be voting no on this item. I think any item that doesn't have an outfall, I'll be voting no on. I just have major concerns, and I've seen some of the ones that already gotten built in Royal Oaks. It's great that there's temporary relief, but I am concerned with the long-term ramifications of building, continuing to build these without the outfalls. So I just want to record my no vote.
Okay. Yeah, I was actually going to bring up Omar. Omar, if you can come up, please. Could you speak on this issue and
Good evening,
give us a little bit more information?
So I don't have the plans right in front of me, but just looking at the overall layout, the one on the if you have the item in front of you, the one titled Alameda, that one should run all the way to 89th Avenue, and what we're doing there is connecting to the trunk line, and that leads to an outfall at the south end, which is the goal of all the West Lakes projects. As you know, in the one that was just recently completed, every street terminated on 89th Avenue, where we connect to the trunk line. Oh, I got it here. It's just the plans. For the one titled West Lakes Garden, what I understand with that one, I have to go check the master list of plans, but that should connect to a project that's directly south of that, and that has a pipe that goes along 152nd and terminates on 89th Avenue. But again, that's something I would I'll get that information confirmed, and I'll pass it on through the manager.
Okay. Any other questions?
But again, the goal is to connect all of these to the existing trunk line on 89th that leads to the Alpha on the south end.
Okay. Thank you, Omar. Do you have a motion on item 10D? Okay.
I'll move.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second on 10D. Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Diegues.
Yes.
Councilmember Ruano.
Yes.
Councilmember Fernandez.
Yes.
Councilmember Collazo.
Yes.
Councilmember Alvarez.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Rodriguez.
Yes.
Mayor Sid.
No.
The motion passes.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Moving on to the rest of the consent calendar.
I'll move it.
We have a motion.
I'll second.
Motion and a second on consent. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, moving on. There are no ordinance in first reading. We have an ordinance in second reading, floodplain management regulations. Mr. Angel.
It's a public hearing.
Okay. Mr. Attorney then.
Got to read the ordinance.
An ordinance by the Town Council amending the Town of Miami Lakes Code of Ordinances to repeal Chapter 4 Buildings and Building Regulations, Article 6, Development within Flood Hazard Districts of the Miami Lakes Code of Ordinances, to adopt a new Article 6, Development within Flood Hazard Areas, to adopt flood hazard maps, to designate a floodplain administrator, to adopt procedures and criteria for development in flood hazard areas, and for other purposes, providing for applicability, repealers, severability, and an effective date.
Thank you. Ready to open it up to public comments?
Yes.
Anyone wishing to speak on public comments on item 12A? Item 12A, public comments. Seeing none, public comments are closed. Mr. Angel.
Thank you, Vice Mayor and Council. Just a recap, this is on second reading. Essentially, the NFIP, which is governed by FEMA and FDEM, put out a model ordinance for us to be in compliance with the program. There was a lot of language, a lot of duplication with the Florida Building Code and the state requirements. So this basically cleans it, streamlines everything, and puts us in compliance with the very important NFIP program.
Perfect. Thank you very much for all your help on this, Mr. Angel.
Thank you.
I'll move it.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes.
Yes. Go ahead, Mr. Mayor, and then Councilwoman Ruano.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. And to Director Angel, when this item first came up, I expressed my concerns over some of the really tough regulations being put in place. One project in particular that I remember was Chick-fil-A. When they were remodeling and they were having to do things that even their national team that they do stores all over South Florida, they were just like, we're spending all this extra money. It doesn't make any sense. I remember they had to do a bunch of flood prevention stuff just because they were next to a canal, even though they had already raised the pad and done a bunch of different things that they felt that they were spending maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars extra in things that, it didn't need. So my concern is that while there are parts of this that I agree with, right, that there's issues with septic tanks and different properties, there's areas in our town that still aren't septic tanks. So we know the impact that has on the environment, but more importantly, on our flood insurance rates. But I do have a major concern with this in regards to the impact to our businesses, especially in certain zones where they're going to redevelop and do different things, and then it becomes a pass-through to the people, to the consumers. So I just want to put my comments on the record because I am concerned with some of these things that mean well, and I know this is meant well, but I think sometimes it has a negative impact, and I saw it in regards to that project.
Councilwoman?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Thank you, Director Angel. Bear with me because this is very outside of my wheelhouse. So I have a couple of questions. With regards to the FEMA policy discounts that we receive, are those discounts going to be diminished at all with this change in our ordinance?
Absolutely not. If anything, this puts us in a position to get even a greater discount moving into next year.
So
The
this
town of Mi-
ordinance is a little more stringent than what we had in place?
No, it actually kept everything that we have in place. It was tailored specifically to Town of Miami Lakes. A lot of the changes, and that's why it was a repeal and replace, was in language, in the duplicity with some of the definitions. The state, for whatever reason, even though we don't allow mobility homes, they wanted us to put criteria in there because it's what the state required. And essentially, this was put us in line with 98% of the rest of the state of Florida. There's only 2% of the state of Florida that, for whatever the reasons may be, did not opt into this. But this puts us in line to get even a greater discount. We're currently a Class 6 rating. My goal is to get us to a Class 5, hopefully by next year's renewal process, which will give us a 25% total discount.
Okay, perfect. So that was one of my concerns. I wanted to make sure that this didn't put us in a less favorable position, because I understand that some municipalities didn't adopt this particular ordinance because their ordinance was a little stricter than this one.
Yeah, that's possible. When each locality, like when we got accepted into the NFIP, which was in 2006, the previous council, or the council at that time, adopted specific requirements or conditions that were a little bit more stringent than FEMA. We've basically kept those in place, and we just changed up all the different definitions for us to be in compliance with the Florida Building Code and with FEMA. But as far as putting us in a less detrimental position, no, it's actually more favorable position to get to that Class 6 rating, Class 5 rating, I'm sorry.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Thank you very much. Any other questions of Mr. Angel? Seeing, Councilman, yes.
I understand the mayor's points, right? And we don't want to place these undue hardships on any business, and we don't want to levy additional taxes on our business community. I don't think that's what this council is about. But if we were not to pass this resolution through, what would be the consequence?
Essentially, we won't be in compliance with the NFIP, which is the national program that provides these discounts. So essentially, all of our residents will be paying 20% more, and there will be a whole host of other factors that we will be penalized for because we're not in compliance with that national flood program. But right off the bat, 20% we'll be paying more. We'll be paying 100% on our flood policies.
So by not passing this, we'd be actually making our residents pay more for flood insurance.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Any further discussion on the item? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, I'll take.
Ordinance in second reading, item 12A. Councilmember Goyaso.
Yes.
Councilmember Alvarez.
Yes.
Councilmember Fernandez.
Yes.
Councilmember Ruano.
Yes.
Councilmember Dieguez.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Rodriguez.
Yes.
Mayor Sid.
Yes.
Ordinance in second reading passes.
Thank you. Moving on to item 13A, the resolution for Jakey Duque Park. Mr. Deputy Town Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. What is before you is an agreement with the Jakey Duque family. My understanding is, through Vice Mayor, that the Jakey Duque families reviewed this and they're okay with the terms. Basically, the statute that we currently have, they purchased it and they paid for it. It is on our land. So this agreement, basically what it does is, should, for whatever reason, we relocate it, they don't like where we're relocating it, or we can no longer have it, it goes back to the family and the town pays for those fees. So that's basically what the agreement is that you have before you.
Thank you. I'll move it.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. So on our ride along with the Public Works Director of Miami-Dade County, around town, we took him to Jakey Duque Park, and Omar was there with us. And one of the things that I know it's in the agreement is that fire lane and the 12-foot width. And that was one of the things that Omar pointed out to the emergency management the Public Works Director. He showed him that lane is already at 12 feet. So if they ever needed it to finish up that road, you really don't need to move the park. So just wanted to put it in there, and I want to remind folks that, yeah, it's still at the election of the town to move it or not. But at this moment, even if they were to build the emergency lane, there's enough width there to keep the park there and have that lane just in case.
Okay. Any further discussion on the item? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Thank you. Moving on to new business item 14A, Mr. Mayor.
Give me 1 second. I'm just moving around. Yeah, I just wanted to bring this up. Be proactive. Just a piece of paper. If the November bond were to pass, I just want there to immediately be in place a citizens oversight committee. I think having residents involved in this process is really important. If it doesn't pass, again, it's just a piece of paper. Lorenzo can draft this within less than an hour, and we can bring it back up in November. And if it doesn't, I think our November council meeting is actually on election day, so we could have it on there. If it passes, we just don't pass it, and then if it passes, we're ready to pass something like this. I think resident oversight is incredibly important. This is something that a lot of cities do. So I just want to make a motion to have a resolution ready for our November council meeting, just in case, if the bond passes, and if it doesn't, we don't have to do it, but if the bond passes, that we have a citizens oversight committee ready, and something that other cities already do.
Okay, we have a motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the item?
Yes.
Councilman?
Thank you. And the mayor included one of the things I wanted to put in there, which was to make it contingent on whether or not the bond were to pass. Another amendment, though, that I would like to propose as part of the language of the resolution is that every member of the council would have one appointee to this body, and also and included in that same amendment to direct the town attorney to work with staff to set certain criteria for the members of this board. I personally would like to see them have some kind of financial background or some other background related to administering the bond or finances of some kind. It just makes sense, right, if we're talking about trying to make sure that the bond is being administered effectively. So that is my amendment.
Are we going to have a member or two of staff on there, or any from the council, anything like that?
Well, I was looking more at the board makeup specifically, from a resident standpoint. I wasn't thinking about staff. So, I mean, at least right now, my amendment is solely focused on the resident members of that board.
I'll second the amendment.
We have a motion and a second on the amendment by Councilman Dieguez. Any discussion on the amendment? Councilman?
Yeah, the only question that came up, and I brought it up during my my briefing, was that it would be immediately assigned to a staff member. I didn't want it to get something that would be lost and not necessarily move forward because it wasn't attributed to a staff member. The manager clarified that it would be under Mr. Badwan's.
Yeah, the director of parks would be the point person who would be the liaison with this committee and bring back reports or whatever that the members of the committee, if they ask for information, the director of parks would be the liaison for that committee.
Correct, and I believe that also one of the things that you mentioned during that briefing process was that it would sunset, right? Like after the bond, after the park was delivered, that this was a committee that would sunset and not something that
This would be an ad
continue.
hoc committee with some end date. There is a sunset to it, and it wouldn't be a standing committee.
Okay.
Do we need to make a motion on the sunsetting of the committee? I think we should, right? Because it wasn't in the...
You can determine if it's at ribbon cutting, the day that, I mean, that would be a...
I'll make a
however you
motion
wanna-
after the vote on this particular motion. I'll make another amendment.
Yeah.
All right, so we're on the amendment by Councilman Dieguez. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, Councilman, you want to make that motion?
I'll make a motion for the committee to sunset once the park is open to the public.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the Second Amendment. Any further discussion on the Second Amendment?
Second.
Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any further discussion on the item as amended? Councilwoman?
I just want to put on the record that I won't be supporting the item if the ballot question passes. I want it to move as quickly as possible, and I feel that these committees sometimes hinder progress, so I don't want everything to have to wait for committee approval or oversight or whatnot. I have all faith that staff will do right by these monies if we do receive them, so I just wanted to put on the record why I won't be supporting this item.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 No.
We have one no, Madam Clerk. Moving on to item 14B, Councilman Alvarez.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Mine is a motion to change the submission of the new business items to 5 p.m. as opposed to noon.
I'll second. Any discussion on the item? Councilman?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'm going to be supporting the item, but I wanted some feedback from the clerk's office because I believe that there was a reason for the time being before 5 p.m. and it was more of an issue of workforce. So maybe if we don't lock ourselves into that, maybe it can be 2 or 3 to give you enough margin to compile the information. But I wanted to listen to what the clerk had to say regarding the item.
Thank you, Councilmember Collazo, for giving me the opportunity to speak. No, I'm okay. I'm more than okay and supportive of this change. We would be okay, the Office of the Clerk, to 5 p.m. if that is beneficial for the elected officials to have more time. I was even thinking, instead of setting the time to 5, give you the entire night. That's okay with us. But for us to send the email out on Friday morning, maybe before 11, before noon, for you all as a body to have the deadline to 5 o'clock, I don't think it's beneficial. I don't think you're gaining a lot by just moving it for 4 hours. You're still at work, you're busy. I do think it would be beneficial for all of you. Get home, think about things to write, send it to us. That's fine. We're okay.
Can we
I
do it at
think that's
midnight?
what's better.
Can we do it at midnight that Thursday? Prior to midnight, 11:59?
Absolutely, I think it's better.
That'll make that, yeah. Okay. So
I'll,
we've amended the motion.
I'll amend the motion to have the new business item submission by 11:59 p.m.
I'll second the amendment.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, I just wanted to bring up, I was been on the council a little bit longer than most, on all the members up there. A lot of these changes happened when there was a different culture. Initially, the new business items would even get submitted the day of the agenda. So a lot of this stuff just started changing little by little. So either change, I'm fine with it, but just wanted to give you guys some historical perspective why this stuff even came up. There was just, the culture was a little different, and that's why they need to make some changes. But there was really no maybe major substantive issue as to why the change happened back then. So, but I'm fine with whichever way all you guys want to go with.
Got it.
So we won't need to waive the rule anymore.
11:59.
11:59,
12:01.
right?
12:01.
No more
you have to waive the
excuses.
rule.
We're good.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Moving on. Item 14C. Transportation Manager. Mayor Sid.
Yeah, thank you, Vice Mayor. So I know we hired somebody, which is exciting. It's great. My biggest challenge that we had is that this position was vacant for a very, 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 very long time. And I, just in case, I would love, as a policy position from this council, is that if a position of this magnitude, which we know it's a transportation manager, and if it were vacant again for an extended period of time, I think even if it's for a short-term period, finding an outside company that can carry that weight in the meantime, because I think those are incredibly important positions. There's a bunch of projects in the pipeline, and I remember at first there was a fully funded position that it was being advertised, and we couldn't find anybody. The council, we lowered it a little bit, found somebody, which is exciting. I hope it works long term. But I think as a policy position, it'd be great for, well, I would love to hear from you all, but it'd be great for the council as a policy. If there is a position of this magnitude that was created by the council, because this is just giving you guys some historic perspective. It got created when we had the Transportation Summit, but it was specifically meant to coordinate all these things. If it's vacant past 3 months or 4 months. I think it's important for us to work with an outside company or vendor, whoever it may be, that staff can find to carry that weight in the meantime. I'm sure it's a moot point now because we've hired somebody, but when I brought it up, it still hadn't been brought to our attention that there was somebody in the position. But I think as a policy position, I don't know if you guys even want to take a policy position, but I would have loved to seen something happen a lot earlier. But yeah, if you guys just want me to table this, I'm fine, unless somebody wants to add something to this. But I'm fine just tabling for the time being. But I will tell you, when there's a position of this magnitude, I do believe we should take a policy position in terms of ensuring that there is proper coverage by an expert that could help us out in the meantime.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion? Councilwoman, yes?
I had a question, and I'm all in favor of using the private sector whenever we can. I had a question, and I'm sure this is the way that it's written in the strategic plan, where it says that the cost should not exceed more than 20% of in-house costs. So I would definitely be in favor of doing something like this, but I would not be in favor of increasing our cost by 20% just to outsource something. So I understand where the mayor's coming from, where we don't want to have vacant positions that might hinder some of the work that we do, but I wouldn't want it to exceed 20%. I'd like us to be able to find someone in the private sector that could do it, for whatever we have budgeted for that particular position.
Or cheaper.
Or cheaper.
Because the idea of outsourcing is that we save money. Mr. Mayor, did you make a motion, or were you going to table the item?
I mean, if you guys want me to, I'll make a motion just as to pass a resolution as a policy position. If there's a vacancy past 3 or 4 months for a position like this, it's operational, for staff to come back, for the manager to come back to us in a report fashion and bring it up to us, say, hey, look, we're having a tough time finding anybody we're going to try this route, follow the strategic plan, follow this route. But yeah, I guess that'll be my motion. If there is an operational position that we can't find anybody, this was one, thank God we found somebody great, but if we were unable to find somebody, the manager comes back to us in a report fashion and let us know what the course of action is, because I think this was an operational one that we had so many big projects. I mean, think about how long this position was vacant. So I would just love to see the manager bring it back to us if it's past 3 months and let us know, and he works it out, lets us know that he's going to look in the private sector.
Got it. I'll second that motion, and I think we're going to have an amendment coming up soon.
I'd like to amend it to include the language where it needs to come in at budget or below.
I'll second that as well. On the amendment to the motion, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Back on the main motion as amended. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion passes. On to 14D, traffic flow transparency. Mayor said.
Thank you. So years back, this council, I believe it was utilizing road impact fees. We pay for traffic cameras on 154th, which is a town road. We paid for those cameras to be better coordination. Not only, a lot of people think it was just the traffic signalization cameras, but there's actually road traffic cameras that we have up there, and I know we have access to those cameras at Town Hall. I get calls all the time, residents like, hey, how's traffic? Traffic's terrible. I was like, I've seen it happen in other cities. There's cities throughout our country that do this, so this is not a novel thing. If it's possible, I would have loved to see if we would get a live YouTube link on the town's YouTube page that's constant, and have those cameras that are paid for with taxpayer dollars, just on a live feed where people can see traffic in real time on 154. So that's something the town, we paid for it. I'll never forget, we paid for it in combination with the traffic synchronization and those. I know we have access to those at Town Hall, and I think it'll be awesome. And again, it's not a novel idea. There's cities throughout this country that do this. I just saw it, and I thought it'd be a great way to, again, just show transparency and seeing traffic on 154, right? So I get calls on that all the time. I just thought it would be a cool, neat thing for our residents to have access to. So just want to make a motion to that extent.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the item?
Yes, just wanted to thank the mayor for bringing this item to the council. I think this is an excellent idea. I think it certainly will help combat certain myths that are often spread around about traffic in the town, and also help residents be able to plan around morning and afternoon traffic as well. I think this is excellent, and thank you for bringing it to us.
Anyone else? Councilwoman? And then Councilman Cunhas.
Just as a quick question to staff, that those cameras are actually being used for what purpose?
Those are for traffic. Major, you have access, right, to those cameras, so
Because originally the purpose was supposed to be that there would be a live human watching the traffic and synchronizing the lights, the traffic lights, depending on what they saw through the cameras. I'm not sure if that actually ever materialized or what it is that we use them for today.
And I can't speak for the county traffic division, the public works, but I do believe that they utilize those cameras in terms of synchronization of the lights during their processes. We have one of the reasons that we have the traffic flow that we have now is because our officers have actually been out there with the traffic manager to actually say, add 10 seconds to this and let's see if we can clear up this roadway at this time, things of that nature. But those cameras are accessed by our real-time crime center. And so the reason we have access to them is because we reached out to our real-time crime center and got access via them, which they have it via the county. So now we're reaching out to the county. We haven't heard back yet as to whether or not they can have or willing to have an agreement to let those be live feed on the air. I'm not sure what legalities are involved in that, but we're working with town staff in order to see if we can bridge that gap and see where we can go from there. Just one concern that from police that we may have is we may want the option somehow, and especially if it's being controlled by us, to stop the feed. So for example, if we're involved in some incident of a criminal nature and we need to stop it, we can do so, and that way, the bad guy's not looking on those cameras and utilizing that. But if we're in control of that, then, that might be a doable thing.
That makes perfect sense. I just wanted to verify because I know that was a program that we were very excited about when the cameras were installed, and I feel like it never materialized and never really yielded the results that we wanted it to yield, right? So using them in a different fashion, is definitely going to be helpful to the residents so that they can see the traffic, but it would be great if they were actually utilized to synchronize the lights.
Yeah, I don't know if they utilized it for, but we definitely utilized it for that purpose. So so your police department is grateful. So
thank you.
Awesome. Any further discussion?
Vice Mayor, real quick, just to answer the councilwoman's question, I've gone to the traffic center for the county. The challenge with that is that the county has like 3 or 4 folks in there at any given time. They have about 30, 40 screens, but they have literally every intersection in the county at the same time, just popping up here and there, popping up here and there. And then one of the things that I thought was interesting is that they get alerts based on even pedestrians. So if a pedestrian touches the crosswalk multiple times, like they get a little alert and it pops up on their screen. So it is challenging because there's only like a handful of people in there. One of the former folks that was in there till recently is a resident of our town, and he talks to me about it all the time, how challenging it is because they really focus on major thoroughfares throughout the county. And once in a while, if we call or police calls, they'll look at our cameras and they'll make some changes. So just one of that guy, I saw it firsthand. I was there on site.
I appreciate that. I wish they would have explained that to us when they were selling us the cameras. It was definitely like a great sales pitch that just didn't materialize into, we made the investment and it just they haven't kept their end of the bargain, right? Lack of staffing is definitely a problem for everyone, but back in the day when it was, I was new on the council and it was gonna be the latest and greatest, and it just hasn't really helped as much as we anticipated it to.
We actually got a better end of it, right, Major? Because we have like real time, like there's officers on the street. So I'm a lot more, I'm happier unlike Councilwoman mentioned, having someone monitor that, we have the real time there, and the folks that need to make the adjustments that are there visually seeing the traffic flow and making those adjustments for our town. So,
Okay. Councilman Carriazo.
Thank you. I see the value in that, as an instrument of the residents knowing, what the traffic is, and is there a cost to this, or is it seamless? Can we just migrate straight to YouTube, or is this something that has to come back?
We're not sure yet. We would report back if there were a cost. If there's no cost, we'll just move forward. So we're, as the major said, we're doing the due diligence, interfacing with Miami-Dade County and try and get the information. We kind of did ahead of time some due diligence. But if there is a cost, unless it's minimal, we'll come back to you. But I don't believe there will be a cost. But if there is, we'll come back to you.
And how many intersections are we talking about? Just, I don't know if through you or through the mayor, since he proposed the item. Do you know how many intersections would be covered?
I believe it would, pretty much everything from 154th in the Palmetto all the way to 87th Avenue, and the traffic cameras can also be adjusted. And that's one other concern, that if we start to, this is why turning them off would be key and would be my recommendation when necessary, because there are times that we're able to zero in and take a look at certain areas, if an officer is there on a traffic stop. A couple years back when things got political and there were protests at that intersection there, we were able to zoom in and just take a look at certain areas, so we might turn them off at that point. But I would say everything on 154, and I have to check on 67. But pretty much every intersection on 154 from the Palmetto to 87 is covered.
All right, thank you.
All right. Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the item? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Moving on to item 15A, Mayor, Council Member reports. We have intergovernmental relations update. Mayor Sid.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. So I'm working on a trip to Washington, D.C. for possibly the first or second week in November. I wanted to extend an invitation. I know Joseph's going to be reaching out to you guys. I'm sure Councilman Diego is going to go. The game plan so far is fly to D.C., spend an entire day on the Hill, stay over that night, spend the entire morning on the Hill, meeting with staff, meeting with members of Congress, committee staffers on the zip code issue, then flying back. So it'll be one night in Washington, D.C. I would love for all of my colleagues to go. I think it'll be very fruitful, and I know Councilman Diego is working hard on this, so I'm sure he's going to be going. But I would love for every single one of you guys to go, because it'll be flying up, staying one night, and then going back on the Hill, and then flying back. So I want to make sure that you all have an opportunity to go, and I would love for all of you guys to go.
Mayor, what was the date on those days?
The first 2 weeks of November, we're still pinpointing a date. There was going to be the last week of October, State of the Town address. The State of the Town was in the middle, so it looks like it might be that week right after the election, or the couple days after the election, when everybody flies back to the Hill, because they have to start their meetings again, and there's an opportunity there before the new Congress comes in January. To get in front of that, because that's when a lot of members, a lot of their legislation moves forward. So it's going to give us an opportunity to see it through.
Got it. Any questions? Seeing none, moving on. 15B, Miami Lakes versus Hialeah charity basketball game.
Yeah, just so heads up, just so you guys know, late November, there's going to be a game between the Hialeah City Council and the Miami Lakes Town Council. So every single one of you guys is going to have to play, and every single person on Hialeah City Council is going to have to play. So I think this game is going to be a lot fair, and I'm sure you guys are going to have fun. So it's 7 of us, 7 of them, and yeah, it's going to be, and it's all going to be, the funds are going to go towards towards breast cancer awareness and research to the Susan G. Komen Foundation. But it's us 7 against them 7, and then we're working it out to add staff and make sure that we can get at least 15 players, add maybe some staffers, and go from there. So, but as of right now, all of you guys are going to be wearing a Miami Lakes jersey, and all of you guys are recruited onto the team. So just FYI, we'll practice soon.
Thank you, Mayor. Manager reports, item 16A, monthly police reports. Major Ruiz. Major's not used to coming up here before 8 o'clock. It's like, what's going on here?
Would you guys like to take about an hour and a half recess
No.
so we can get
No,
back on
we're
track?
good.
No? Okay.
No,
well,
thank you.
We're good then.
Not a check.
Javi Ruiz, your town commander. This past month, we continue to be steady and down in overall targeted crimes by over 11%. We also assisted the Neighborhood Improvement Committee and town staff in the culinary bike tour and held the bike rodeo. Looking forward, we're going to have a busy October and November. Our guys are prepping to assist the Youth Activities Task Force with the upcoming Halloween event. And on the 29th, or that's on the 29th, and then we also have the Veterans Day Parade that we're prepping for November 6th. We're also been invited to participate in Career Day at Barbara Goldman on the 9th of November, so we're going to have some resources there as well, some police resources. Second, moving on to, because of the additional funding that we have now, we've begun moving forward with our enhanced enforcement initiatives for burglaries and traffic details. As the months progress, we'll update the council on any developments that our actions facilitate and what comes up from them at future meetings. And we also wrapped up the first month and a half of school now, so considerable attention and efforts have been placed towards addressing the traffic out of Bob Graham. Although traffic continues to build up, we've done our best to shorten that time. So whereas we had people parked on 79th Avenue last year for an hour and a half, now it's down to about 30 minutes. And we've met with several constituents and citizens out there, literally out there showing them how shortened it's gotten over this time period. We still have people, being displaced into the Winn-Dixie Shopping Center and the Royal Oaks area, but we have our staff driving around and trying to get them to move. And earlier today, we did meet with school staff, with the principal, the assistant principal, the newly elected Roberto Alonso as well for the school board planners, and also Councilmember Ruano was there to provide a good historical insight regarding the issues that have occurred there. And there are some plans in the works. One of the things that we're trying to move forward with, and school board the school's trying to move forward with, is on the southernmost loop, building a small connection from the loop where the kids are picked up to the parking lot where some staff where staff leaves out of, right next to the basketball courts. This will allow us to double up on the traffic on that southern loop, and instead of holding about 150 vehicles, it will now hold 300 vehicles, which will help eliminate the number of vehicles that are on 79th Avenue. Might be able to open up the gates earlier, get some people in, and get that traffic off of 79th. If we're able to do that, that would significantly help address the issue. We also they also want to address some of the complaints that they've gotten from some of the residents on 159th Terrace, that people are parking in that swale, and they are, bringing dirt and debris into their homes as they drive in and use their driveways to back out and back in. So they want to most likely move the fence just a little bit forward in order to encompass more of that property and keep people from parking there. So working with the school staff, they know our concerns. They're working hard. We're working hard, and hopefully we can help bridge some of these solutions together so that, we can improve traffic and improve the situation there. Other than that, I'll open it up for any comments or questions.
Yes. First of all, thank you for you and your guys' culinary bike tour. Huge success, a lot of fun, and so thank you for everything you guys do for our events. I wanted to ask you how things were going with the vehicle unit, the newly.
So we're October 11th today. I think we've worked 2 details, and we've got 3 scheduled this week. So so far it's going good. Excuse me, one of those details was a traffic one. So 1 vehicle burglary the past week, but we've got 3 scheduled this week. So I won't say the exact days we're doing them, but
Yes, that's part of the fun, right?
We've got
that's
them
the
out
mystery.
there.
I just wanted to make sure these are patrolling vehicles. These are driving through neighborhoods purposefully.
We're going to use a combination, but in terms of vehicle burglaries, what we want to do mostly is utilize undercover staff, and I don't mind saying that out loud because the bad guys should know you're not going to see us coming until you see us until we get you. So yes, my undercover guys are going to be out there for those crime initiatives, the vehicle burglaries. Now, in terms of the traffic one, obviously it'll be uniform with the green and white so that we can pull people over and issue traffic citations and educate people on traffic situations.
Perfect. Thank you, Major.
Thank
you. Any other questions, Councilwoman?
Thank you, Vice Mayor, and thank you, Major Ruiz. Our meeting today at Bob Graham was amazing. You've done an amazing job to get cars off of 79th. I work in that area, and it is much more manageable and pleasant around dismissal time. So there was a couple things that I wanted to bring up. I was listening to the meeting, the Neighborhood Service District meeting for Loch Lomond, and one of the hot topics, right, which is actually one of the hot topics in my recent HOA meeting, was that of vehicles that have been stolen in the community. So I will say that the vehicle that was stolen in my community was left open with the keys inside.
Yeah.
So I will, continue to tell residents to remember to lock it or lose it. That campaign is very important. Remember to keep your vehicles locked if possible, because sometimes these are crimes of opportunity. The residents of Loch Lomond obviously were very upset. I completely understand them and feel for them, right? We're doing the best that we can, and these vehicle burglary unit specialists that we funded are supposed to tackle that very topic. Now, during that meeting, I believe that Lieutenant Gonzalez told the residents that your officers patrol Loch Lomond 3 times in the evening.
What he brought up and he explained, I believe, was a ShotSpotter technology that we are now utilizing. And for example, Loch Lomond, as these issues arose and a recent crime occurred there, an attempted burglary, he assigned via the ShotSpotter technology for midnight shift, for example, to be in there for 3 times during that night. And then the next morning, when he comes in and when the GIU sergeant come in and when I come in, we sit down and we take a look at the app, and we're able to say, oh, Officer Rodriguez went in there for 15 minutes for this time, went in for 15 minutes at this time, and went in there for 15 minutes at this time. So yes, that's what he was explaining, and that's more of a clarification.
Okay, so for the residents that have asked me, right, do we have these patrols in other communities as well?
As they come up and as issues of crime come up in other communities, we will address them. Obviously, if we had every single community listed on there, I'd have to bring in staff from Midwest District, Northwest, North Side, to kind of, and Hialeah to kind of hit every single spot.
Right.
But that being said, the ShotSpotter technology looks back over 6 months, and it takes a lot of the guesswork out of what my sergeants were doing in the past, what my sergeants and lieutenant were doing, which was looking at crime data and going, all right, it looks like they're going to hit this area, let's have the guys patrol that area. Officer Bob, you now have area 1, this particular grid. The ShotSpotter technology actually looks back past over a year and sees trends wherever it can, and focuses on, on those areas. And our guys are working with the ShotSpotter technology guys. We actually had a meeting in which they met with the 3 municipal cities police, which is us, Palmetto Bay, and Cutler Bay, and they discussed what are your needs as compared to the district needs, because you guys have separate needs. And we were able to tell them we have more of a focus on property crimes because, in terms of homicide, we average 0 to 1 a year.
Thank God.
So, thank God. So it's moving forward, and yes, we're utilizing it for other areas, but as it comes up, I can't say we cover
Right,
every
we can't
single
cover
area.
every area. Okay, so I know that Royal Oaks has been hit, and I've received phone calls from them. So at some point, I'd like to add them to that list as well, if we can. And I know that Satori had vehicle burglaries as well as Royal Palm, and I think that those are the 2 communities that actually have the first agreements with the police department to have patrols inside the communities.
Sure.
So I'm not sure if that's happening at any point, because we looked at our surveillance videos and we do see the officers on 154th Street, but they're not actually coming into the community. So I don't know if those agreements have been executed at this point or not. I don't know what status they're in.
So the agreements, remember that the agreements, we don't need the agreements to patrol your area. What the agreements were because it's private roads, it's so that we can issue, for example, a parking citation of somebody being in the roadway. Just a point of clarification. But that being said, we are patrolling those areas, and as a matter of fact, one of the burglary initiatives was, I'll say it now, it was in Satori last week. It's already passed, but we hit that spot.
Perfect.
And Satori, we also, Lieutenant Gonzalez and I also met with some of the members of the HOA and concerned residents last week in order to discuss crime concerns.
Perfect.
We went over some of the stats that have been going on, some of the issues of concern.
Thank you for that.
There was one house where they were running a business out of, not anything for us, but we passed that on to code compliance so they can take a look at it. So we did discuss some of those concerns, and they average, what they have is a lot of nuisances with people walking through, but they're also averaging very low crime, maybe one a month, to be honest, over the past year. So that's
Perfect. So I'm
when you
really
look
glad that you met with them, because that gives them peace of mind and actually gives them real information versus all the stuff that we imagine in our heads. So that's perfect. The last thing that I wanted to address was the speeding on Fairway.
Yes.
So I received an email from Ms. Sharon, who is still complaining about the speeding on Fairway. And I don't know, I know that we had phantom cars there for a little bit. We've even had officers there for a little bit. So I'm not sure if you see any progress with that, or if there's anything else.
We've done 2 details in the past 3 weeks, 14 citations on one, some verbal warnings, and 12 citations on the other. So we're averaging about 12 to 14 citations on each time that we run a detail there. In the previous months, we've been there as well. So I know we've received the same complaints forwarded to us as well by the town
Perfect.
manager.
But the fact that you're out there and that you are issuing citations, she's brought up before the idea of installing, temporary stop signs or things of that nature. Do you think that that would be helpful in any way?
It's hard for me to make that recommendation. And for example, I know that everybody brings up that one accident, the hit and run that we had several years ago. But the stop sign, it's kind of like, if we want to stop speeding on I-95, do we put a stop sign there?
Right.
So stop signs are usually for intersections. They're usually for, crossroads. I can't say that I have as much expertise to kind of say, let me give you my opinion to put traffic signs there. I think that's something that a traffic,
right, more of a traffic engineering question.
Should do a study and look at better than I can. But
Council member, Public Works is already kind of looking at Fairway, right? It's a little bit of a mixed bag, right? Because we have limitations because the county restricts, they have control over traffic calming devices. But there's other things that maybe we can do. So I know that I asked Omar to start taking a look at different ideas, giving like a blank slate and say, okay, how do, if we were to try and have some kind of a physical barrier, right? Some kind of a physical thing, because the police can't be on every corner
Of
at every
course.
minute, right? So they do a great job. He's already attested to the fact that their enforcement efforts are really stepped up. So the next thing would be to look, and the crosswalk that we put with the lighted crosswalk near Gauchos,
Yes.
that's been great. I've seen people crossing there all the time. So I think for pedestrian safety, that is tremendously enhanced. So we're going to look at different physical enhancements. Obviously, those cost money, right?
Yes.
So, but we're going to look at all the laundry list of different options and then beat them up and see what we can come back to you with some kind of recommendation.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you, Omar, and to Mrs. Sharon and her neighbors. I'm sure they're going to be very, very grateful if we can find a way to curtail the speeding on that street. Thank you, Major.
Keep trying.
All right, thank you. Moving on to item 16.
Nope, Mr. Vice Mayor.
Sorry, Mr.
I have
Fernandez.
I have a
Councilmember
couple
Fernandez,
more
go ahead.
questions for the Major, if
Go
I
ahead, go
may.
ahead.
So, Mr. Major, why aren't we able to do more of these 15-minute patrols in some of these other in these other neighborhoods like Satori and Royal Palm? And what's stopping us from doing that across the board?
Well, keep in mind that there are several duties that we assign to our police officers throughout their entire shift. So they have to answer calls for service, they have to conduct traffic enforcement, they have to go to different areas, and we can't. It's nearly impossible to plan out every single officer's shift with complete accuracy in terms of this hour for 15 minutes I want you here, this hour for 15 minutes I want you there, this hour for 15 minutes I want you there. There are several duties that will conflict with that type of scheduling throughout the shift.
Got it. And do you, in terms of stopping, stolen vehicles and things like that, do you think these kind of patrols are effective at deterring those?
Sure. It's incremental. Obviously, one of the ways that it was explained to us was, if you patrol an area for 2 minutes, then you've deterred crime in that specific area for 2 minutes. But as more time you spend there, if you patrol it for 15 minutes, you're really deterring crime there for 2 hours. So what we want is our officers to hit the area for 15 minutes and then come back a couple hours later and hit it again for 15 minutes, and a couple hours later and hit it again for 15 minutes. This will not only allow them to patrol that general area, it'll also keep them moving about and driving around to different areas, in and out, in order to keep them patrolling a specific area and keep them moving rather than be stationary in one location.
Got it. So if we wanted to increase the effect of these patrols town-wide, what would we need to do to be able to accomplish that?
Well, I'm not sure. That's something that prior to this, what I explained was our sergeants were assigning directed patrols based upon crime data that they received, let's say on a weekly basis. This new system allows us to not only assign areas based on crime data, which it was doing automatically, but we've actually worked with the staff of this in order to build our own little boxes. So let's suppose that, for example, we may not have gotten hit in Satori often, and it doesn't necessitate, according to the algorithm, our officers going to that area. We've been able to initiate our own boxes in this data set so that the officers will be directed to actually go there because that's what we want. So I think these steps have actually helped us improve our capabilities of directing where they're going to patrol.
Right, and I definitely applaud you for using technology to make the patrol, the capacity that we currently have,
Absolutely.
more efficient. So that's definitely commendable. What I wanted to make sure is that, you know, we don't need more of these patrols, and we're not able. You alluded to the fact that if we wanted to do these patrols town-wide, we would need to bring in officers from other districts and the such. I wanted to make sure that you weren't in fact saying that we needed more officers, because that would definitely be a concerning revelation given the conversations we had regarding the budget recently.
Of course, and I was alluding to the fact that many people out there would like, just like I myself would, I would love to look outside the window and see an officer, you know, parked across the street, and obviously that type of scenario would be impossible given the constraints of that every single jurisdiction has in this world. But that's what I was kind of mentioning, and it wasn't meant in quite that manner.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you, Major. I'm Vice Mayor. I'm done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Thank you, Major, very much. Moving on, item 16B, monthly infrastructure report, Mr. Santos.
Good evening again. Omar Santos, Public Works Director. Just to clarify, I was able to pull up some of the information on the project that the mayor brought up, and it is connecting to an outfall. Both sections, we had split them in the visual, but the north project does connect to the southern project through 152nd, and that leads to the 89th Avenue outfall. Just wanted to clarify that. One of the projects that was mentioned here is the Fairway Drive bike lanes project. It's not on the list because we're still in the preliminary phases before design, but the purpose of that project will be to add bike lanes and add a second crossing similar to the one we already have, and if approved, a raised intersection type infrastructure. But again, all this is still in the planning and has to go through county approval, FDOT approval. It's FDOT funded project that we're planning. Some of the capital improvement projects, I'm just gonna highlight several of them. If there's one in specific that you wanna discuss, please interrupt me whenever you want, or at the end. On our roadway side, we have the 154th Street and Palmetto Expressway turn lanes. That the design was approved tonight, and that will be awarded to our contractor tomorrow, so they can begin their design on this project. Second is the Safe Routes to School Bob Graham Educational Center. So that one, the final designs have been submitted to FDOT, and we're in the process of completing our construction checklist with FDOT so we can put this project out for bid, for construction solicitation. Now I'm going to go to some of the stormwater bond projects, the ones that we have more ahead. Commerceway drainage improvements. This is one of our bigger projects. It's already at this 100%. I believe the DERM Class 2 permit has been completed, and we're just completing the final phases, getting all the plans together, the OPC from our designer to put that out to bid as well.
And Omar, if you can add it, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but if you could add in there, when you go down the list of projects, if it has an outfall or not, because I know the ones that we've done in Royal Oaks don't have it. So, just for clarity, if you could do that, please.
Okay. So Commerceway will have an outfall. It's actually going through an easement on the property that the Grahams are getting ready to develop. So that the Public Works Department and the town has been in communication with the Grahams to get that through there. Most, if not all, of the West Lakes projects do have the outfall because that trunk line was already constructed in a past project. For Royal Oaks, we have a plan that will require additional study, and that would lead to an outfall in the future if it comes to fruition. But what the mayor's concern is a similar one that the department has, and our goal would be to eventually provide outfalls to that.
If I can interrupt you, in Royal Oaks, do we have easements for these outfalls, or is that one of the issues that we have to go through someone's private property?
Some of the areas have easements, mainly on the on the east side. Problem we have with a lot of these over the years, they have been developed. So it's not really feasible to put an outfall through there.
Okay.
Yeah.
No.
So project we discussed today, West Lakes Gardens Second Edition on Alameda. That one, the CEI was awarded today or approved today, and that will be going into construction soon, within the next 2 months. In our stormwater, in our ARP projects, we have the Sevilla Phase 1 project, which is entering 60% design submittal. That one also has an outfall proposed to the canal to the north. And following that, we have the Royal Oaks D, Second Edition, 5th edition, which is also entering the design, the 60% design submittals. So these are further ahead, and we expect them to be going out for solicitation soon. In our facility projects, I would like to highlight the backup generator. That one, we're planning to bring the design for award in November council meeting, so in 2 weeks. And we'll begin the design process on that project. And finally, to close, we have our roadway maintenance items. So what you have in front of you is what we completed last fiscal year. And that's our metrics. Did a lot of sidewalks and roadway. With that,
excellent. Thank you.
I
Thank
have
you, Omar. Any questions?
Yes,
Councilman?
Vice Mayor.
Go ahead, Councilman Alvarez.
I know the manager was working on this with Carlos. Do you have any update on the left turn signal on Northwest, on
82nd
Montrose?
Montrose?
Yeah.
So that was warranted by the county. Currently, it's pending funding on their side. They sent I'll let the manager continue.
Finish.
No, so they did send us their estimate. We have made 2 requests so far for a breakdown, because there was a question as to how that was put together, and we have not received it yet.
Yeah, we were going to enlist the help of the county commissioner to help us push that up in the pecking order of the county's funding projects. So they approved it. They said that there is a need for the left-hand turn signal. They said it's subject to funding. So now it's a matter of getting it funded. So we're waiting to see what the estimate was. So then we can now work with the commissioner's office about trying to get it pushed up in their priority list.
What's the estimate that you got for it? Do you recall?
At the moment, I do not remember. I would look that up and provide it through the manager.
So would they typically fund that? And if they don't, then you would bring that back to us, and we would have to decide if this is something on our priority list for public safety.
Yeah, the county has complete control over the signals. So we would probably have to give them money, and then they would do it. They wouldn't just allow us to do, mess with their signals. Anything with the boxes, with the signals, they're really sensitive about that. But I think that the county's pockets are a lot deeper than ours, and I'd like to take a shot at working with the county commissioner for our district and be able to try and get it bumped up in priority to try and get it funded sooner better than later through county funds.
Now, with the conversation of Fairway, Carlos had provided a list of priority lit up pedestrian crosswalks. And, some of obviously the estimates were high, and we weren't able to get that into our budget, at least a couple of those projects. One of my questions was, if you remove the lighting on the street and you just have the signal on the pole, that would decrease the cost probably significantly, because the one that we have on Montrose has the lit up.
So the one that we do have on Fairway is also like that the lights light up on the street.
If we want.
One on Fairway, one on Montrose. Not mid-block.
Not mid.
Well, there's the one that one is solar powered.
Solar powered.
Yeah, that's
and it's just lit all the time.
Right, that
It's
one's
not
lit all the
when-
time
when
on
a pedestrian
154,
presses a
right.
button. The mid-block one by Gaucho's.
Correct.
A pedestrian pushes a button and it starts flashing. And the one on Miami Lakes Drive, that one is just lit all the time once the sun sets, and it's powered by solar powered. But the tree canopy around there allows us to use the solar powered one. The solar powered ones can only be used in certain areas where
Right.
there's opening.
Right, just my question is, like, if we want to at some point incorporate this into a master plan and kind of phase it in like we did with the reforestation projects, right? When I was speaking to the vendor at the kind of ribbon cutting event, he said that we can do it without the lights on the street, which will dramatically decrease the cost, and just have the poles lit up. Maybe we should just explore what does a lit up crosswalk cost with the two poles lighting up, and with the two poles lighting up and the floor. Because maybe this council, at least we can maybe add some of these items. And I mean, the lights on the pole are, I mean, they're really bright. So, I mean, Montrose is a really, really dark street. But there's other areas that we may be able to eliminate the light up street lights and decrease the cost and put some of these projects online.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's the challenge here is making sure that we don't piecemeal it, right? Because on Fairway, we have a project that's already been awarded that we're in the process of, I think it's going soon to design, which is the protected bike lanes, which will narrow the travel lanes for the cars. That in and of itself, believe it or not, is a deterrent to speeding. So when you have the lanes and now you have them really wide lanes, it causes people to go faster. As you narrow them, protected bike lanes. So we have to incorporate all of these things into one, I guess, Fairway master plan, to your point, right? Between the existing project that's already been funded, you know, possibly crosswalks, lighted crosswalks, any other speed or traffic calming device that Public Works. So we'd like to have the ability to kind of plan it and have a master plan, things that have already been awarded or funded versus some other ideas that we can help, so we can have a complete understanding of what can help to reduce traffic and speeds on Fairway. Yeah. But to your point, we'll price it separately, right? I think a big cost, and Omar can speak better to that, a big cost, a big portion of the cost is bringing electricity to the site. Once you have electricity there, adding the lights on the floor may or may not be a significant difference, but we'll price it out as option A, option B, and so forth, so we can look at it. I think the big portion of the cost is bringing electricity from a source to that site, whether it's lighting just the poles or the poles and the lights on the floor.
Yeah, correct.
And kudos to you with the sidewalk repairs. I think I had seen some ludicrous comment on Facebook about our town not having sidewalks repaired, and I saw them all down Burger King and Ana Maria University. So, and I know you've done a lot of work on Commerce, so keep up the momentum, and it's good to see that, you know, that you don't get jaded by the, you know, false claims, and you see, when you see it in action and you're walking and driving and running through the sidewalks, you actually see that the work is being done. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you. We got two contractors out there. As long as the funding allows, they're out there.
Yeah, I know. It just, you know, just wanted to clarify that because I see it going on. So that's some of the fake news, but this is the real news. So thanks, brother.
I wanted to add that we were talking about the Montrose turn. It's the estimate we got from the county was 197,000. I just looked it up right now. So.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Good evening.
Moving on, item 16C, Mr. Bajwan.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Jeremy Bagdown, Director of Parks and Recreation. Don't have too much to report to you monthly at Optimus, other than we're underway with our fall season. Right now, we're just entering the new budget, so we're taking a look at all of our inventory, our equipment. We start reassessing midway through the season, what do we need to reorder. Other than that, it's pretty much normal operations, our monthly light inspections, checking for anything infrastructure-wise, but nothing notable right now other than just our day-to-day checklists and just operations for our seasons.
Awesome. Any questions of the Park Director? Seeing none, thank you very much, sir. On to the Attorney's report.
Yeah, this, I'm going to give a part of the report. Lawrence is going to give the other part. As many of you know, Mr. Abella, we got a injunction against Mr. Abella, especially when it comes to Alex Ray. Alex Ray is a former manager here. We have a policy where we defend not only current staff, but also former staff, including members of the council. Mr. Abella, we got an injunction against him on behalf of Alex, probably 2016 or something like that. I don't remember the exact date. Mr. Ray moved to become city manager of St. Pete Beach. He's now, but he still has a home in Miami-Dade County. Mr. Abella has started with all his emails again. He lost another trial. He's subject to, I think it's his third loss, if I'm not mistaken. He's about to get hit with another $20,000 cost judgment, which is unsatisfied, and he's sent, I don't know how many emails about Mr. Ray. He's actually probably violating the injunction, but he's trying to get it set aside. We had a hearing recently, and it's been reset not until, I forgot the date. I'll let you know the date, and I'll keep you advised, but we're defending Mr. Ray, and we are not agreeing that Mr. Abella can go near Mr. Ray.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor, Mayor, Council. There's three other reports that I just want to report on. One of them, I need action from you. For some time, we've identified one particular property in town that is not complying with our code compliance. Warnings, citations, they have several liens, the letters have been sent, and we've already done kind of the legwork for filing a foreclosure action. It is a commercial property, so we have the ability to do so. But this is something that we need your direction. I need your direction to tell me, Lorenzo, go ahead and foreclose on this lien. It is with regards to the property, the Discount Auto Parts. We have sent them several warning letters, and they've gone pretty much unanswered. There have been a couple of calls, returned the calls, but nothing really has been complied with. So the direction I'm seeking tonight is to be able to move forward with that action.
I'll move it.
I'll second.
Mr. Attorney, I just want to make sure. Can you say how many times you guys have reached out? Because I don't want people to think that this is something that we're jumping the gun on. This has been a long time coming, right?
We've sent them in the past year, I would say at least 2 certified letters, and there have been several telephone calls. That's besides the fact that they've received several citations and they have several liens on their property as well.
Yeah. There's something about a complaint that really gets people moving. So hopefully that's your more effective manner than a letter.
Well, and that's, I think, the manager can speak a little bit more on that, but I think that's the idea behind this, is we want to force compliance. And so if we can't get compliance by citing the folks, if we can't get compliance by sending the letters, then perhaps, as you said, a complaint will get their attention.
Yeah, Vice Mayor, we do not want to be in the real estate business, but the only way some of these commercial properties or non-homesteaded residential properties, and probably the non-homesteaded residential properties are more egregious to our residents than the commercial properties. Commercial properties, when you go to the store, something, looks amiss, whatever, you want to make it correct, you want to make it look better. But when you live 24/7 and your neighbor or somebody across the street, it's an absentee owner and they had let their property, run down, we're gonna start trying to get these folks into compliance. And if it means filing foreclosure on these non-homesteaded commercial, non-homesteaded residential or commercial code enforcement liens, we're going to start doing that. We want them to comply. That's it. We don't want their properties. We want them to come into compliance.
Agreed. Councilman, yes.
I want to thank you, Mr. Manager and Town Attorney. I know this was brought forward by a resident many times that I've had to go over and tour that area. Seen oil spilling into the roadway. These have been very egregious types of complaints, so I appreciate you guys finally taking some action. That entire area back there is blighted, and that's not the only offender. I have seen homeless people sheltering back there. I have seen dumping going on back there. So I hope that this is one of the bad actors that you're dealing with, but one of many. because really that area is not a hallmark of what this community represents, and I think that kind of sets a tone for maybe what we need to do to some of those commercial properties moving forward.
Yeah, I think Lorenzo will agree with me that we don't want to do this recklessly, right? So this is basically sticking our big toe in the water, but eventually we're going to get in the water and get all of these commercial properties and non-homesteaded residential properties that are not being good citizens. They're not being good Miami Lakers, and we want to get them into compliance so that neighbors, especially the residential ones, neighbors can live in a neighborhood that they can be proud of.
One last thing, you're filing these actions yourself? We're not hiring anybody else to do this, right?
We're
This is
doing it.
in-house.
No, this is being done through the Gustasi Lopez Mestre Law Firm.
Got it, okay.
Lorenzo, just make clear that all of those costs, right, the cost of the action is all recoverable.
Most times in
Yeah.
foreclosure actions, the fees and the cost are recoverable
Right, you add them on to the judgment.
at the final judgment.
Okay. Anything else?
Yes, there's two quick items.
Oh, wait, I think we need a vote, right?
Yes, you do.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 There's two more items. One is on the shopping carts. This item you brought forward, Vice Mayor, last month. We've done a little bit of homework. There is an ordinance and there is a statute. The ordinance penalizes the actual store that doesn't have certain signs, that doesn't take certain precautions, in order to make sure that the shopping carts do not leave their premises. The statute makes it a criminal misdemeanor and up to felony if the person takes it and steals. And actually, I think it's a second-degree misdemeanor, and there's a fine that's associated with it.
That's the individual that removes the cart.
The individual removes the cart, right. So the idea is we're going to be meeting, I think tomorrow, as we have the meeting set, with building, the manager, and myself to kind of come up with a game plan. And the idea is probably to the violators or the violator, kind of send them a citation, which we can because it is a county ordinance, and then work with them so that we can bring them again into compliance.
That's what I was going to tell you. One of the things that maybe you want to do is set up a meeting with that business specifically and work with them, because I'm sure they
Great
don't
idea.
want to have to go chase their shopping carts 4 blocks away. They'd much rather them stay, so maybe you guys can work something out.
Sounds good.
Mr.
And
Vice
then
Mayor.
one
Yeah, wait,
last-
one second.
Oh, I'm
Councilman
sorry.
Dieguez.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, in the last budget, we bought some cameras that we're using to try and combat illegal dumping. I believe they're currently placed by Big Cypress or facing down Big Cypress and Miami Lakeway South. Maybe for some of the hot spots that we know about, like there by the La Quinta Inn, that ends up with a lot of Winn-Dixie shopping carts, maybe we should redeploy the camera temporarily there to help you in your goal to capture whoever's taking the carts. I think that would be another way to approach it as well, and put those cameras to good use. Just want to throw that out there.
Okay. Next.
The final item is privacy protection. Several months ago, Councilman Dieguez brought up an item with regards to a neighbor that was pointing a camera at another neighbor's house and what the town could do. And so I've prepared for you. You have a memorandum there, and it's kind of simple and to the point. There's basically the state law already creates it a crime if you're pointing your camera in an area where a person has a reasonable expectation of privacy. What's a reasonable expectation of privacy? Well, obviously, if you're in your bathroom and somebody's pointing a camera, you have a reasonable expectation of privacy in your bathroom. If you're in your backyard and you're enjoying yourself, you could have a reasonable expectation of privacy. And could because it depends on the facts. You live on a lake, maybe not. You live in enclosed area with fences and a lot of trees, then probably yes. You don't want your neighbors seeing you. You have an expectation of privacy in that backyard. But if you are found to have violated that and you are under the age of 19, that's considered a third-degree misdemeanor. If you, or first-degree misdemeanor. If you are over the age of 19, it's considered a third-degree felony. So Florida law covers that as far as a crime. As far as civil penalties, there's also different statutes on the books. One of them covers cameras, the other one covers drones. If you're taking, again, footage of someone that has a reasonable expectation of privacy, then you can get a compensatory damages against them. You can get an injunction, and you can also get attorney's fees if that's found. So what can we do as a municipality? Well, Not much, because again, you already have state law that's kind of covering it. So you guys can decide as far, and a person does have a right to have a camera. That's a given in the law as well. What you can do is maybe the aesthetics of it, kind of govern that. Also, some cities do require, the council member said about certain cameras that we have, for certain businesses to have cameras. So you can make that as an imposition that you have cameras for security purposes. But as far as the penalty itself or the crime itself, that's already kind of covered by Florida law. Not kind of, is covered by Florida law.
Yeah, that covers it for me. And I'll be sure to share that with the resident there at Eagle Nest that was raising the issue. I'm sure she'll appreciate hearing your information. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
That's it. Thank you. Seeing no further business, this meeting is adjourned.